What's the most shocking story of parents meeting their kids is SO? Story 1. When I brought my first girlfriend home, I was mortified by the thought of telling my parents. So we went straight to my room and started killing time. And here's what happened. My mom opened the door to my bedroom and froze mid-sentence. "Hey, I was wondering if we could have turkey for dinner tonight." I awkwardly then removed my hand from the front of my girlfriend's unzipped jeans. My mom. Oh, sorry, I didn't know you had company." Yeah, Mom, yeah, this is Caitlin. "Hi, Caitlin, would you like to join us for dinner?" "Sure." Then we all had a very uncomfortable dinner together. Good times. Oh, this guy wanted to go straight to dessert, eh? But his mom was like, "Hey, no skipping meals, young man." Story 2. My boyfriend's family had an Easter egg hunt, dinner, and party games. His middle sister had recently started seeing a guy she met on eHarmony. He lived in Toronto and owned a delivery business and a flower shop. She spent the afternoon telling us about him, but her brother joked that he was a shady business dealer. We laughed, but her boyfriend's behavior later raised some red flags. When he finally arrived, he was wearing a t-shirt with arrows pointing to his shoulders and the caption, "Place legs here," written across the chest. Everyone started asking him questions, but he was evasive. I worked in a flower shop for a few years, and he couldn't even name any flowers himself. His English wasn't perfect, but he was also very awkward. As time went on, the snow dealer possibility became more likely. After the party, he went full-blown creepy stalker. She broke up with him, but he sent her over 40 text messages trying to get her back. He wrote poems about how much it hurt to miss her and said he'd drop by her work. She blocked his number and reported him on eHarmony. Everyone in the family agreed to call the police immediately if we saw him anywhere. It was like standing next to a train wreck as it happened. Story 3. The first time my mom met my high school sweetheart was when she walked into my room with my girlfriend Bear on the bed and me, fully dressed, at my computer. My girlfriend worked up the street, and during the summer I worked nights, so we had a few hours together during the day after she got off work before I had to go to work. She came over every day and came to my bedroom where I was able to persuade her to get in her birthday suit and let me do some wild things. However, she would not let me do the same or get lucky with her. After a while, I got bored, so I fooled around with her for a bit, then let her lie on my bed while I went on the internet. When my mom was supposed to be at work, she burst into my room, as mothers often do, and saw her sitting there. I like to imagine that she only saw my girlfriend Bear and was confused since my computer desk was around a bend in the room. Mom never brought it up again, nor did she ever mention that encounter. Well, about my first time with my girlfriend, it eventually happened. She was young and inexperienced, so looking back, she was probably really nervous, and I was probably overly aggressive in my youth. Our first time was in my tiny twin bed, and I actually ended up breaking it. Story 4. My most awkward meeting with a girlfriend's parent was 9 years ago. I was sitting on her mom's couch, chatting with my girlfriend while we texted each other flirty messages. We pretended to talk about being seniors and looking forward to graduating, but we were really discussing the passionate and steamy kind of teenage romance that abstinence-only education warned you about. So as we texted more, I started to get a little excited. It was nothing I couldn't control, but damn it felt dangerous and naughty, which got the adrenaline flowing. Her mom was in the kitchen the entire time, cooking up a meal, leaving us to our secret naughty conversation. I told my then-girlfriend to put her phone down while it was on vibrate. She did, and I called her repeatedly. Watching her get hot and bothered got me bothered as well. I was really in the moment knowing she was ready for some action. So pause for a moment and picture this scene. I'm sitting on the couch, and she's sitting next to me with her phone between her legs while I ring it repeatedly. How could a guy like me not be excited? I made one miscalculation, though, how quickly her mom could prepare a full meal. Panic time. Her mom walked into the living room to announce that dinner was ready, but it needed to cool down a bit. She wanted to take this time to get to know me better. I had met her once before, but only briefly, and I had only said hello to her then. She perched an arm of the love seat, which was at a right angle to the couch where we were sitting. And she sat there like a judgmental vulture disguised as a Betty Crocker lookalike. Her voice and smile were gentle, but her eyes were fiery and alive like she had taken them from Hannibal Lecter. Are you excited to graduate? Yes, ma'am. I get really polite when I'm nervous. Are you too hungry? I made enough to feed everyone and send your friend home with leftovers. Thank you, ma'am. My snake was about to burst through my zipper and my nuts were starting to turn blue from all the trapped desire. Oh, call me Kathy, or Mom if you want to. I'd rather not. In fact, I'd rather be sowing my wild oats with your daughter and praying for crop failure. Okay, Kathy, I'll remember that. Oh, where are my manners? I almost forgot to mention that we hug in this family. I was thinking, oh, Christ, please, no, not now, not at this exact moment. I haven't had the chance to covertly tuck my snake into the waistband of my jeans. All right, son, stand up and give me a hug, mister. No, 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 no. There was no way I was going to escape the situation without killing two people and hiding the bodies. I did it. I stood up and hugged this woman. As soon as it happened, I could feel my snake press into her. She knew. I knew she knew because she backed away from it. And as soon as she did, I had an involuntary muscle twitch for a split second and pushed it back. We broke our hug, both trying to be polite, but the shame had already set in. Dinner was awkward for sure. I wolfed down my food without making eye contact with Kathy. I made an excuse to leave after dinner, went home, and wallowed in shame and embarrassment. Rock over, London, rock on, Chicago, Mitsubishi. The word is getting around. Oh, whoops. Looks like the battering ram hit the wrong castle. This dude survived, but his shame, oh, his shame will probably stay with him forever. Now, if you cringed at these stories of people getting caught red-handed, then hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more. It really does help us out. Thank you for watching. Story 5. My ex-girlfriend's mom greeted me with a blunt question. Did you convince my daughter to start taking pills so you could sleep with her? I was stunned. We had only been dating for a few weeks and she was inexperienced. I wasn't pressuring her at all because I really liked her. Still confused, I listened as my girlfriend explained that she had told her mom she wanted to have her first time and needed birth control. That first encounter with her mom set the tone for our entire relationship. She just hated me. It was like an ironic conversation. How dare you plot to do that with my daughter? Well, ma'am, I was planning on taking things slow, but to be honest, I can't think of anything else right now. She refused to believe that I hadn't pressured my girlfriend, and she thought I would back down at the prospect of accompanying her to the doctor's office to get birth control. She just simply couldn't stand me. It's funny, though, in hindsight, but it was definitely an oh crap moment at the time. Story 6. Yikes, that dinner one is one I'll never forget. My son's best friend, who had been his buddy since elementary school, came over for what I thought would be a routine evening. The boys would hang out all the time, usually spending the night at my place a few times a week to play video games or whatever else it is that teenage boys do. Anyways, as we all sat down to dinner and made a toast, my son and his friend announced that they had some news for us. I figured they had gotten into trouble at school or something, but then I saw them holding hands. And that's when it hit me like a ton of bricks. My sneaking suspicions about their relationship were starting to look a lot less like mere suspicions. My son then came out to reveal that he and his friend had been dating for the past 2 years, but that they're not gay. They then went on to explain that this friend may look like a young man, but that they are actually transgender and do not have male parts. Now keep in mind that I had just gotten home from a long day at work and was looking forward to a simple evening of steak and the Broncos game. Unfortunately, I got a little bit more than I had bargained for. The son's quote-unquote girlfriend then reached over the table and whispered in my ear, "Hey baby, want some fun?" At a loss for words, actions, or even thoughts, I simply said yes. Today, they're all happily married and living their best lives. Story 7. I never thought I would have to physically intervene in my daughter's life until I saw a boy slap her behind in front of me without any hesitation. Well, what did I do? I stood up to him and delivered a backhanded slap to his face. I told him that his behavior was unacceptable and that he needed to respect my daughter. He was clearly surprised by my reaction, but he apologized and walked away. Surprisingly, my daughter didn't hate me for standing up for her. In fact, she seemed relieved that I had taken action. She also told me that she had heard other stories from her friends about boys who had done similar things. One of her friends shared a story about how her boyfriend had accidentally slapped her on the bum in front of her parents. He was so embarrassed that he blushed and apologized profusely. Her parents were understanding, but they did make it clear that they expected him to be more respectful of their daughter in the future. Story 8. In high school, I met a girl from another school through a friend who was dating one of her friends. Our parents were pretty relaxed, and most of our weekends were spent enjoying ourselves at the pool house, hanging out and taking dips in the pool when we needed to cool off. Now, it didn't take long for us to get intimate, and it was amazing. You know how it is when you're young and you find someone incredibly attractive? You don't want to let go. I quickly became her boyfriend, and even though I didn't know much about her, I felt like I knew all I needed to. She was a great person, and she let me be myself. In the second week of our intense fling, something didn't feel right down there. It burned whenever I took a whiz, like every time. I had a Catholic school background, so I was familiar with the concept that intimacy outside of marriage could lead to problems, and oh boy, was I worried. I knew I had a problem, I just wasn't sure what it was. Some people might ask, she gave you an why didn't you break up with her? Well, let's refer back to my earlier statement. I was young and she was very accommodating. We became even more serious, like close to meeting the parent series. But love couldn't cure whatever was bothering me down there, so I had to schedule a doctor's appointment. In the examination room, I had to admit my fears to my doctor, who I had always suspected was gay. I was concerned that I might have a serious. I had to give him a urine sample, and he did a physical exam. He asked why I thought I had contracted something, and under the veil of doctor-patient confidentiality, I told him everything. Basically, it came down to this. I met a girl from across town, and we've been, well, getting intimate in various places, the pool, the bushes, cars, you name it. I don't know much about her, but if she's willing to be with me, she's probably a bit adventurous. It took a week, but the test results came back, and I had a mild urinary tract infection, UTI, likely from not being cautious enough. The doctor advised me to clean up my act, which was a huge relief. I couldn't help but think about Sister Helen and her dire warnings about the consequences of those activities. Everything started looking up after that. The downstairs issue cleared up, and I continued dating the girl. After a few months, she invited me to a family dinner. Her mom was lovely, and her dad turned out to be my doctor. Oh yeah, the plot twist at the end of this one was secondhand embarrassing. If I were that guy, I might have passed out myself. Story 9. So I was a teenager working at a pizza place when I met this one girl. We started talking, and one night she came over when my parents were asleep. My mom is hard of hearing, and my dad sleeps like a log. So we started fooling around and eventually passed out. I thought she could leave after my parents left for work the next day. After we woke up, being teenagers and seeing a hot girl, we decided to go for round 2. Then I went for a shot and accidentally got something in her eye. She started crying and saying that it hurt a lot. We left my room and went to the bathroom so she could check her face. Now, to get to the bathroom, we had to pass the computer room. And guess who was sitting there? My mom. She had taken the day off to pick up my cousin from the airport and was killing time on TMZ.com. Her reaction was priceless and humiliating. She turned to say good morning and saw me and this girl she had never met before, completely bare. That was the last time she came over to my house. Work was also pretty awkward after that day. To summarize, a female coworker came over for a fun evening and I accidentally got something in her eye. My mom saw both of us bare and kicked her out. That's it. Good stuff. Good times. Story 10. My grandma told me about a neighbor's family that had a falling out on their front lawn. The daughter was crying and trying to get away from her boyfriend. They were probably in their late teens or early 20s, and it was the 1950s. The father came out to chase the boyfriend away, and the father was known as the mildest, kindest man on the street. So when the father came out the door, the boyfriend got really angry and punched the daughter. Grandma said he hurt her hard. The father went berserk. He was a veteran, and Grandma said it showed as he charged the boyfriend. She had never seen such savagery in her life. He roughed him up for like 15 solid minutes, and then when he heard sirens approaching, he went inside and came back out with a sharp weapon. Then he went punishing the guy like a rogue samurai. Then he sat sobbing for an hour on the sidewalk with his daughter. Grandma said that the father was never arrested and that the boyfriend turned out to be a wanted man. Upon further inquiry to another family member, I learned that the daughter was pregnant and that the boyfriend had punched her in the stomach. The sirens were for the ambulances after she started to suffer from the attack. The sharp weapon was a cavalry saber. When the father swung the sword, the boyfriend put his arms up in defense, and that was the end of it. I have no clue why the boyfriend was wanted. I was told this story when I was 10 years old, decades ago. I asked my aunt about the rest of the details after I posted it for the first time. My rendition was how I remembered being told of it as a child. My aunt didn't witness it firsthand. She was shoved inside like the other young children. She was told what happened later on. Story 11. I'm not a parent, but I met my high school girlfriend's parents when they returned early from a long walk to find us making out on their family room couch. I was politely but firmly asked to leave the house. Then I backed my dad's car over a random tool lying in the middle of their driveway, popping a tire and causing a loud banging noise with every tire rotation. I had already messed up with her parents, so I didn't want to damage my dad's car and anger him as well, so I attempted a quick tire change in the driveway, hoping her parents were busy elsewhere. I couldn't find which tire had gone flat or what caused it, but one of the front tires seemed softer than the others, so I started changing it. As I was working, her garage door opened and her father drove out in his car, trying to leave for work. Unfortunately, I had blocked his driveway. He stayed in his running car the entire time I changed the tire. As I finished, started the car, and began backing out of the driveway again, I heard a bang and realized that I had changed the wrong tire. So I pulled to the side of the driveway to let him leave and allow me to change the correct tire. But instead, he stayed in his running car watching me the entire time. He wasn't going to leave until the idiot who had made out with his daughter on his family room couch and spent 20 minutes changing the wrong tire left his property. A week later, my girlfriend gave me a check from her parents to cover the cost of the tire, as they were responsible for leaving the tool in the driveway. My dad had already bought new tires, so I spent the money on beer. Yes, it was embarrassing how I first met my girlfriend's parents, but her dad ended up paying for my next few weekends of drinking. I guess that act of kindness is a green flag for the future in-laws. Still, it's got some tough competition with the whole couch incident red flag. Story 12. When I first met my girlfriend's dad, I thought it would be a great idea to go in for a manly handshake. He'd broken his wrist in a cycling accident the week before. I can still hear the painful crunch it made in my nightmares. I also may or may not have let him drive himself to the hospital while I had a disappointing teenage romance with his daughter. Then in high school, my girlfriend was a senior at a different school, while I was a sophomore. At their school homecoming game, it was a tradition for all seniors to dress up in camouflage, so my mom first met her when she was dressed head to toe in black and white camouflage and wasn't aware of the tradition. As she was walking towards us, my mom said, "Oh dear, no," and didn't realize I'd heard her. To be fair, she was somewhat drab. Story 13. My boyfriend's dad told me the story of how he drove home so drunk once that he lost a tire hitting something, then drove on the rim for at least 4 miles down the interstate. Thankfully, he's sober now, but I was like, seriously? Is that something you want to tell me the first time we meet? Story 14. I wouldn't say this is shocking or really a red flag, but if you could have been there, you would have found it hilarious. So I'm a Polish guy from Cleveland. I'm a runner, but I'm not all an athlete or particularly coordinated. I was dating a Cuban girl from Miami, and I went to visit her. Her dad asked me to play soccer with him and some friends. Man, should I have said no? They were all 45 to 55 years old. I was around 21 or 22 at the time. But 2 of them had played for the Dominican and Argentinian national teams in their youth. The rest were just Hispanic and had been playing since birth. I can't tell you how stupid I felt out there. I got tripped up at least 5 times. It was rough. Story 15. So I'm not a parent, but when I met my girlfriend's mom for breakfast, I ate all the sausage and bacon thinking it was the plate they had left for me since I showed up late. They were just too kind to say anything. A friend told me that I mistook the amount of bacon and sausage they had left out as just for me. It's their own fault for not having enough breakfast meats. They said I should be insulted. Story 16. I was the girlfriend in question here. I had come over to my long-distance relationship boyfriend's apartment on my way out of town. I had dressed in a plaid skirt, fishnets, combat boots, and a low-cut black tank because, well, I wanted to leave him with a fond memory. So he's got me pinned, face first against the wall with my skirt up, when his dad walks in. Apparently, he'd come by early to take him to lunch and drop him at his job. I was absolutely mortified during the entire lunch with his dad's girlfriend, and my boyfriend. I ended up marrying my boyfriend about 3 years ago. It still comes up occasionally. Oof, being caught in the act is like having your whole life flash before your eyes, except it's just all the embarrassing parts. Hey, I want to say thank you for sticking around, and be sure to not miss Rich People Who Married a Poor Person. What surprised you? Story number 2 will mess you up, I promise you. I'll see you there, and thanks for watching this one.